Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care anyway? We know what we need to do. We lost the first leg at Paradise by 2-1 in a very tight game that could have went either way. But as Brendan and the boys head to Germany, head to Munich, there is only one thing, and only one thing that will get the job done, and that is a victory that will take us to extra time. If we could get an even better victory, then maybe not, but we need the boys in green and white to become heroes. We need a masterclass from the manager, and in the video today we're going to preview the match because we kind of know what we need to do in this one. We know what Celtic are going to bring to the party. We know what Bayern Munich are all about, but there's a few things to tackle before we get to that game for how Celtic are going to shape up. How do we actually attack the match? And ultimately, how is it actually going to pan out at any point in the video today? If you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We recently broke through 11,000 subscribers and we are firing towards 18,888, and we cannot do that without your support, guys. And get into the comment section in this one. I want score predictions. I want man of the match shouts. Can we do it, guys? That's what I want to see in the comment section. Hit the like button. Get that luck out there for all the hoops that are going to be travelling to Germany, whether it be the fans or the players or anything else in between. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into this, because this is our third Champions League playoff, our third Champions League knockout game that we've had this millennium, essentially. And not many of the second legs that we've had in years gone by have had maybe as much hope or as much promise in them as we come into this game. The Celtic starting 11 could be good enough to get the job done. The Bayern Munich team, yes, they are like maybe capable of getting really far in this tournament, but they're not classic, they're not vintage Bayern where they're singing and firing on all cylinders. And Bayern Munich's domestic form in the Bundesliga is one thing that Celtic fans all around the world have been kind of clinging on to say, you know what, this team does leak goals, this team isn't all conquering, we can go and do something. And, you know, the weekend that we just had there, they had a top-of-the-table clash, a 6-pointer against Bayern Leverkusen, the reigning Bundesliga champions. This game finished as a 0-0 draw. As you can see, Bayern ended up using all of their subs here. They were really managing their minutes, they were really trying to manage the match here. And Leverkusen gave it to them as good as they could get. And they didn't sub anyone. They really just put the foot down on the throttle and really asked big questions of Bayern. And ultimately, you know, it was honours even. They finished as a draw, which was all good. But one thing I wanted to highlight by this, right, is the style that Bayern Leverkusen have built their defence on here is actually kind of similar to the way I would have liked or thought we could have approached the home game by starting Liam Scales in at left back. You know, their back four here are all centre backs. All these centre backs are kind of comfortable, more in a back three, and then in front of them we've got fullbacks Grimaldo and Frimpong to be, you know, pressing on and really just overloading those forward positions there. And yes, their calibre of player, man for man with us, is probably a little bit taller, faster, stronger, better on the ball. I get all of that, of course, but as you look at their front line, very nullified. If we look at the statistics for the game as well, only 2 shots for Bayern in this one. Possession was quite evenly split, and again, that's maybe a tale of Leverkusen's strength as maybe as much as Bayern's lack of, you know, utter dominance in this one. But this is a game that I think, you know, maybe just puts a little bit more doubt into their minds, maybe puts a little bit of hope into our minds that they're not this free-scoring, all-conquering side. Now, the Bayern Munich predicted 11 for this game doesn't really have many question marks. I think we're going to see the exact same team that lined up at Paradise to take them into the second leg, with maybe Kim Min-jae being the only, you know, change, the only notable difference from match day leg 1 to leg 2, as it were. But otherwise, there won't be too many surprises. But for Celtic, there's 2 really big question marks after the game we had at the weekend. The first one is in at left back with Greg Taylor or Jeffrey Schlupp. I still hold the door open a little bit that Liam Scales could feature in that kind of quasi-Leverkusen approach, as it were, but I just don't think Brendan will take that chance. And when it comes to the left-back question mark, this is a really difficult one, right? Because Greg Taylor is 100% match fit. He is firing. He is like ready to play. He's match fit. You know, I can't say that enough. It's the difference between fit and match fit. You know, Taylor is the guy. He is ready to play in terms of availability, fitness, match reps, minutes, all that kind of stuff. Jeffrey Schlupp is not. He is not match fit to the same extent. He has not been playing, getting as much reps in, etc. But I think we all were quite impressed by his cameo display when he came off the bench against Bayern, as well as his performance at the weekend. So much so that all Celtic fans I'm speaking to are really up in the air with how to approach this. It does feel that the consensus spot is to start with Schlupp on the left because of the physicality that he does offer, as well as a little bit of the familiarity of playing against former teammate Michael Olise. that could be the way to go. He has the pace to get up the line, as well as the physicality to stay in neat and, smash a Kimmich or smash an Olise if required. And, I'm not really too sure how the manager is going to flip between these two, because as we'll talk about, like, the midfield is nailed on. I think we know it's going to be McGregor, Hatate and Engels. The rest of the defence is kind of nailed. I think we know that. The front line is the extra area we need to come to here, right? But there's one dynamic as a manager in general, never mind as Brendan Rodgers as an individual, where you need to have something on the bench to lift a gear, to lift the tempo, to really push and go at it. And I think if you were to start Schlupp, it's very unlikely he's going to complete the 90 minutes. If we got to extra time, it's very unlikely he's going to complete that as well. And I think going for Schlupp off to bring Taylor on later in the game is a gear down, is a kind of consolidatory effort, is something you would do to see the match out, more than, the game's tight, there's 10 minutes to go, let's throw someone else on, try and up the ante, try and up the tempo and create something happening here. So I actually think Taylor is going to start this one personally. And Schlupp could be that lever that comes off the bench later on in the game, because he is quite versatile. He could pop up in a number of different spots, not just left back, to maybe in the closing stages of the game, maybe even leading into extra time, that could help us kind of kick up a gear and really put some extra pressure on them. We know what needs to be done from the defensive point of view. We can't believe in Kane alone at corners, of course. Elise coming inside. Maybe Taylor does not play this one, in fact, because Elise really did school him in that first game. It's a really 50-50 call. I just think Schlupp could maybe lift the level for us later, whereas Taylor probably drops a bit of the level later on. So that's actually really tough. I'm still quite torn on that one. It's probably a big theme of the comment section in the video, no doubt. But I do feel that the midfield coped really well, and there's not really any question marks to be had with any of them, really. And I think all the midfielders that we bring into this game are going to look forward to round 2 against their contemporary, against their adversary that they've got here. But the next big question mark for us is up front, right? Now, we are a goal down. We do need to win this game. And what I was mentioning before about how you want your bench to give you another gear to go up if you have to go and push and win on in the match, would lend itself in to Adam Idah starting, and then maybe somebody like Jota coming off the bench later on. And then we've got Dyson Maeda doing that defensive winger role, as well as Nicholas Kuhn, and looking at counter-attack and go and bust on with it. But to be honest with you, I don't think that this is the way to start the match, because yes, you can go up a gear later on by taking off Idah for Jota, and then putting Dyson through the middle, of course. But by that time, the game might be beyond us, to be honest with you. We need to score goals. We need to get back into the tie sooner rather than later. And yeah, bringing Idah off the bench later for Dyson or any of the other front three, whoever it might be, Jota or whatever, would maybe reduce the tempo a little bit. But it doesn't really reduce our goal threat, as we've seen from the first game. Adam Idah can definitely run the channel, can definitely be a handful for the two centre-backs that they're going to predominantly believe in. But the main element of the Bayern defence we didn't exploit is the defensive triangle they pass out with here with the goalkeeper. And it really does feel that we have to come into that with top tempo to get back into the tie, to draw level, maybe even take the advantage on the two-legged affair overall by really starting on the front foot. I don't think we can wait until the second half. I don't think we can wait until the 60th minute to go up a gear. Bring Schlupp on for Taylor, bring on Jota for Idah, whatever that kind of double sub, whatever that move would be later on. I think the front line especially has to start in top gear, and it's something that we have to go and really, give Jota, Kuhn and Maeda 60, 70 minutes on the pitch together to really cause as much havoc, to gain as much of a, attacking edge in the match as we possibly can, because I do feel that Adam Idah will still have a big role to play in this game, and from the bench can be just as effective as he can from the start. But I think what we've seen against Bayern Munich in the first leg, as well as not Aston Villa necessarily, maybe Atalanta. Yeah, I think it's maybe Atalanta I'm thinking of. That Big Idah, he can not waste, but he can burn a lot of energy in the first half doing these doggy runs, chasing the ball down and all the rest of it. Whereas you bring Idah in for the closing stages of the match, I'm not sure he really brings us down a gear all the way. If he brings in a good tempo with limited minutes at the end of the match, where with the form he's got, scoring goals and being the main man up front, he could just come in as a wild card, bull in the china shop kind of style at the end of the game, towards the last ebbs of it, to crash through the door and to maybe make the difference at that point in the match. Because beyond these two question marks that we've got at left back and up front, we don't really have many other weapons from the bench. Yes, there's Yang. Maybe McKeown gets some minutes in this game, but really our options from the bench are going to be really limited. And again, similar to what we've seen with Leverkusen, we want to do our best to not give Bayern Munich a minute to breathe, to not give them a chance to settle into the match. And we want to make sure we're asking as many questions of them all over the park as possible. We're not going to dominate possession. Bayern are probably going to come out of this game with 60-70% of the ball. It's going to be a huge game again for Kasper Schmeichel, but all focus is going to be on those chances that we get. And if we are going to concede a lot more possession than we did at home, we're going to need to get up the pitch even quicker when we do turn it over. And with the passing range that Engels, Hatate and McGregor all have from these deeper midfield positions, we want to have Kuhn, we want to have Maeda, we want to have Jota on every ball possible to make sure we've got the quickest, the most skillful, the best players for linking up with one another on the counter-attack, on the break, maximising any errors and any openings that we actually get, particularly in the opening stages of the game. Because if we can get a goal early enough in this one, then for all intents and purposes, we can pretend that we drew in Glasgow. You know, if we score in the first 5 minutes of this game, make it 1-0, for all intents and purposes, there's no away goals in this game, then it is level pegging. It is all to go for the remainder of the match thereafter. And I really do feel that this is the front three we have to start with. We have to go foot down on the pedal, into top gear, and really start at it. This does lend me back into thinking about Jeffrey Schlupp, although I do, because I do think that if we are going to progress, we probably do need to get into extra time for this. And then I worry about the management of who is at left back. You know, do we want Taylor running into the back end of the game into extra time, or do we want Schlupp? I think that's more of a one I really am struggling to wrestle with. Whereas with the front three, I think if we got Jota, if Jota can only do 60-70 minutes at his best, let's get that from the beginning. We know then Dyson can do Dyson for all time, essentially. And then Adamida can come into this later on. Kuhn is probably going to burn out at 60-70 minutes again as well. And we'll be looking to bring on Yang. So I just feel that for the main players, for the best attacking options we have, I want as many of them on the pitch together, burning all their energy together, really putting it all out there on the pitch together for as long as possible before we start to put, not necessarily square pegs into round holes, but we start to call upon the second string to supplement the squad, to supplement the strategy, and to help us get over the line ultimately. Now, we didn't score away at Atalanta. We did score one against Dortmund, right? Whatever. And then the other away games like Zagreb and, you know, Aston Villa, there's not been a complete performance, I would say. The Atalanta game has been great, I think, for the, you know, the confidence and the kind of, you know, we went away to Italy and didn't get hammered. But then between all the other games, there's just been, maybe a wee bit defensively missing, maybe a wee bit up front missing. And this is a game where we can't really be missing anything. We need a complete performance from start to finish. And this is going to require probably 15 players to take part in. And I think there's only an obvious 13 if you add in Yang or McKibben to maybe make it 14. We're still quite thin, so we need to really carefully manage the resources, manage the squad, and deploy the best ones possible for starting the game, as well as thinking about as the match goes on and how the scoreline might evolve, the state of play might evolve, how we get the most out of them. I'm really optimistic that if we do start with the front three of high energy, high octane, mega press that we can here, I'm quite confident we could score a goal or two in the first half. I'm not too sure about how angry that will make Bayern and how gung-ho, how all-out attack they might get and how, you know, the ball might land for them. But I think across this full match, across the 90 minutes, we could score 2 or 3 goals quite feasibly. And if we do get into that realm of we've put the ball in the back of the net a couple of times, we are going to be really in this tie. The temperature is going to be super high. Bayern could then start to crumble. Like I mentioned in the preview to the first game, Kim Min-jae, Upamecano, these guys have mistakes in them. And if we turn the pressure up, if we ask big questions really early, this could be a monumental performance. This could be a monumental result, a real page turner in the history of Celtic, going into a playoff Champions League game, 2-legged affair against one of the top 5 clubs in European and world football, and at their patch getting the job done. I'm really excited. I'm really hopeful. I think we all know Bayern are the favourites. It's very more likely than unlikely that this will be our last game in the Champions League for this season, but we do not wave white flags here. We only wave green and white flags here. We do not give up until the final whistle, and I'm going into this game crossing my fingers, saying my prayers at night, and hoping that the boys can come out the traps firing and really make this a game that, even if we don't qualify, we've still got a lot to hang on to and a lot of promise going into, you know, future campaigns and all the rest of it. I think we're going to win this in the 90 minutes by 2-1, and it's going to go to extra time. I think Dyson Maeda is going to get on the score sheet, and I think, again, this is going to be a huge match for Kasper Schmeichel, where he could maybe be the one that comes out of this being man of the match. I'm really excited for the game this week, guys. I hope you guys are as well. If anyone's travelling to the game, travel safe and have good fun. By all accounts, there's a great relationship now, thanks to the Tartan Army, it feels like, between Scottish football fans and German football fans. So despite all the kind of political stuff that's kind of going on with the banner at the first game and all the rest of it. I hope everyone travels safe. I hope everyone has a good time, of course. And for any of you that are going to Germany and you get into a little bit of banter, a little bit of back and forth with any of the locals there, this is something that always irks me, right? Because German fans, German football is always like, we put the fans first and we're not the Premier League, we don't milk the cow and, you know, all that caper. But Bayern Munich are the biggest hypocrite in the world for this, because they've sold their fans to T-Mobile. You know, they've got fans in their stadium that sit with white overalls on to symbol the T-Mobile logo. They've sold their fans down the river, pretending they're not a commercial enterprise and all the rest of it, but they've got fans with season tickets there that are getting gowned up to represent T-Mobile in the Allianz Arena. So if you need a wee bit of a comeback, if you're having a wee bit of a back and forth with some of the locals there, they sell their fans to T-Mobile. That's the comeback you need. On screen there now, some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button for this one, guys, and I look forward to seeing you after the game so we can go over the bones of hopefully a memorable result. Hail, hail, and moan the hoops.